Your fingers close around something before your mind has caught up with what they found. It is a stone, flat on one side, rounded on the other, small enough to fit in one hand. You turn it without thinking, the way you might test the weight of a piece of fruit, not for any particular reason, just to feel what it is. The edge on one side is different from the rest. Sharper, you press your thumb across it slowly, not hard, just noticing. It catches a little, not painful, just present. You set it down. Pick it up again. There is something about the weight that feels right, though you couldn't say what right means yet. You carry it a few steps. Then a few more. It fits between your thumb and the base of your fingers in a way that makes your hand feel less empty. You don't know what you'll use it for. You keep it anyway, wherever you are as you listen. If this kind of quiet storytelling is something you enjoy, please take a moment to like the video and subscribe to Gentle Human History. And if it genuinely settles something in you, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is for you. It's always interesting to see where these quiet moments are being shared. Now settle in. Let your weight rest wherever you are. Let your breathing go at whatever pace it wants. There is no particular pace required here. Just let the story move. The ground is dry and hard beneath your feet. You've been moving for a while, through open land, past patches of low brush, skirting the edge of a shallow slope. The light is somewhere in its middle hours. Not early, not late. The stone is still in your hand. You come to a place where other stones are scattered. Larger ones, pushed up long ago by something underground, half buried and leaning. You crouch down, and your knees take your weight easily. You set your stone on the ground beside you and look at the others. Some are big, too big to lift comfortably. Some are already broken, split into irregular pieces with pale insides showing. One piece catches your eye, longer than wide, one end narrower than the other. You pick it up, heavier than the first stone. You test the narrow end between your fingers. It has an edge that isn't smooth, but it's not sharp the way your first stone was, more like a ridge. You tap it against the large stone beside you. The sound is dense and flat. You tap it again. There is something satisfying about the sound stones make against each other. Dense, immediate, no echo, just contact. It arrives cleanly and then it's gone. You have probably done this before, picked up stones, hit them together, not for any particular purpose. Just because the action felt like it made sense. Research suggests early humans were carrying and returning to specific stones for hundreds of thousands of years before leaving traces we can identify as intentional tools. The use came before the making. Familiarity came before understanding. You set the long stone down. You pick it up again. You sit back on your heels and look at the two stones together. The long one and the small, flat one. Different weights, different shapes, different sounds when struck. Already you are learning something, though the learning has no name. You find a place to crouch properly, both knees down, weight balanced. The large stone is in front of you like a surface. You hold the long piece in your right hand and strike it against the edge of the large stone. Not hard, just testing. A small flake breaks off. You look at it. Pale. Thin. One edge of it is sharp in a way the main piece wasn't. You pick up the flake. Press your thumb along it carefully. Yes, that edge is different. Clean and fine and immediate against the skin. You set it on your thigh and look at the long piece again. Strike it again, this time at a slight angle. Another flake. Smaller. You don't pick that one up. You strike again and again. The rhythm is slow. You're not in a hurry. There's nothing that makes hurrying necessary. You just want to see what happens at different angles with different amounts of force. One strike sends a long flake skidding off to the side. You watch where it lands. You leave it. You move around the stone. Try a different face. The flake that comes off this time is bigger, slightly curved, pale on one side and darker on the other. You hold it up against the light. The place you're working smells of warm stone and dry earth. There's a faint animal smell in the distance, not close enough to mean anything. Just present. You notice it the way you notice the slight wind that passes across your shoulders now and then. You keep working. The long piece is starting to look different. Some of its rounded surfaces are gone. In their place, angles, edges, a kind of rough geometry that you didn't plan, but that your hands seem to understand without instruction. You hold it. It sits differently in your grip now than it did when you first picked it up. The pointed end extends just past your fingers. When you close your hand around it, there is a clear part that points outward and a clear part that rests against your palm. You stand. Take a few steps. Feel the weight of it as you move. There is a piece of wood nearby, a fallen branch, dry and gray, wedged between two rocks. You press the pointed end of your new stone against it, drag it. It marks the wood, a thin pale line where the surface has been disturbed. You do it again, pressing harder. The line deepens. You can see the fibers separating. You look at the mark, then at the stone, then at the mark again. You do it a third time, slower, watching the edge work its way through the grain of the wood, watching the pale material accumulate in a thin line along the groove you're making. Early humans likely understood the connection between stone edges and cutting long before they began deliberately shaping stones to create those edges. The noticing came first, the doing followed, and then, slowly, the making. You don't think in those terms. You just see what the stone does when you press it into something soft enough to receive it. You try it on the dry grass nearby. The edge parts it cleanly, like the grass was always meant to separate at that exact line. You try a thicker piece of stem, woody and resistant. It takes more pressure, more dragging. The edge skips a little before it catches. But it works. You keep the stone. The afternoon passes at its own speed. You move through open ground, carrying the stone loosely in your hand, not thinking about it much. The land here is broad and slightly rolling. Dry grass in some places, bare patches of reddish soil in others. A line of trees far off to one side, low and dark against the sky. Your feet know this ground. The slight dip here, the harder surface there, the patch of loose stones that shift underfoot. You walk it without watching it, your eyes moving across the middle distance the way they always do, checking, noting, moving on. At a certain point, you crouch and dig at the base of a plant, looking for something at the root. The roots are what you're after, a certain kind, thick and starchy, the kind that holds water in them. You dig down a few inches before the soil gets hard and compacted. You stop, look at the stone. You use the pointed end to work into the soil. It breaks the surface more easily than your fingers did. You angle it, push forward, lever it back slightly. The soil loosens. You clear it with your fingers and work the stone in again. A simple thing, but it makes the work quicker. You dig, work the stone. Dig again. The root comes free with a short, definite pull. You sit back on your heels. The stone in your hand is the same stone it was this morning, but now it has done 3 things: marked wood, cut grass, broken ground. You didn't plan for any of those. You just tried. There is a kind of learning that happens entirely in the hands, not in thinking it through first or knowing what you're doing before you do it. Just in the trying, in the small adjustments that follow a result. Press harder. Angle differently. Try the other end. You have been learning this way since you were small enough to fit in someone's arms. Everyone you know learns this way. It is the only way available. There are no other ways. There are just hands, and time, and the accumulation of small results. The light has shifted. Not late yet, but moving that direction. You make your way toward the line of trees. The ground changes underfoot as you get closer, harder at first, then softening where the shade keeps the moisture in. You can hear water somewhere not far. The sound of it moving over something. Inside the tree line it is cooler. The light comes through in pieces, uneven and shifting. Fallen leaves underfoot, soft and slightly springy. Occasional fallen branches, some rotten, some still solid. The smell is different from the open ground, deeper, damper, more varied. You pick up a stick without stopping, straight enough, about the length of your arm from elbow to fingertip. You're not sure why you picked it up, you just did. You keep walking and carry it alongside the stone. Where the tree's thin, there's a shallow stream, no wider than 2 steps. Clear. Moving slowly over stones. You crouch at the edge, drink from your cupped hand and sit back on your heels. The stick is still with you. You press it into the soft bank beside the stream. The tip goes in easily, the soft mud receiving it without resistance. You pull it out. Press it in again. There is something straightforward about the action. Testing depth, feeling the softness, learning what's there before you step in it or reach into it. You use it to turn over a few stones at the water's edge, rolling them to see what's underneath. Not much, some damp soil, small things moving quickly away from the light. You set the stick down across your knees and watch the water. At the water's edge, stones are always different from the ones further inland. Smoother, rounded by the patient movement of water over time that is longer than you can imagine. Some of them flat, some almost perfectly circular. Their surfaces are without angles, without edges, just shape and weight. You pick one up. Very smooth. It fits in your palm like it was made for exactly that. No edges. No points, just solid weight and the particular smoothness of stone that has been in water a long time. You feel how different it is from the stone you worked this morning. That one has edges now, angles, surfaces that are irregular and purposeful. This one is just itself. Complete. Not for anything in particular. You hold them both for a moment, one in each hand. The weight of each is similar, the surfaces entirely different. You set the smooth one back at the edge of the water and watch it settle. On the way back from the stream you find something else. A large flat stone, about the size of your palm, thick enough to have real weight to it. One face is nearly perfectly flat. The other has a natural indentation in it, a slight hollow, as if something has worn it smooth from the inside. You press your thumb into the hollow. It fits. The stone sits in your hand differently because of it. The hollow aligns with the pad of your thumb in a way that makes the grip more certain, more controlled. When you hold it and press down with your arm, the force goes straight through. You keep this one too. The evening comes the way it always does, by slow degrees, the light going softer and the air going cooler and the sounds changing slightly. More birds for a while, then fewer. The insects beginning their evening. You are back near a place you know. A sheltered area, slope of rock on one side, the tree line on the other. A natural overhang of stone above. Others are here already. Not many. Enough. A fire is going in the center of the sheltered space, small and steady, enough for warmth and light. You settle near it, not too close, and rest your back against the rock face. The stone from this morning is on the ground beside you. The flat-palmed stone. The stick. You pick up the worked stone and turn it in the firelight. The edges you shaped today catch the light differently from the unworked surfaces. The broken faces are lighter, fresher, more reflective. You run a finger along the longest edge carefully. Still sharp, still precise against the skin. Someone near you is doing something with a piece of hide. They have it pressed flat against a stone on the ground, and they are working another tool along it in slow, overlapping strokes. The movement is repetitive and even, almost without variation. Each stroke covers the same length, returns at the same angle. You watch without watching, not focused exactly, just aware, taking it in the way you take in most things, without intention, just receiving. This is how a lot of learning travels. Not by instruction, not by being shown and told to repeat, just by proximity. Watching someone's hands long enough that some pattern passes into yours. Quietly, without announcement. Firelight is particular. It lights edges and leaves centers dark. The stone in your hand has a ridge of orange light along its worked edge, shadow below, then darkness. You rotate it slowly. The light moves along it, following the edge. You are not doing anything with it right now, just holding it, letting your hands rest with something in them. There is a kind of thinking that happens when your hands are occupied but your mind is loose. Not problem-solving, not planning, just a quiet drifting. The fire, the stone. The weight of the day settling into the body. You may have been sitting this way for a long time. It is difficult to say. You sleep. The morning has a different quality from the evening before. Cooler. The sky is a pale color at the horizon, darker above. The fire is coals and a thin thread of smoke. The air smells of night and dew. You rise. Stretch in the way that happens without choosing, the body finding its own length after stillness, working out what needs to be worked out. You walk a short distance and come back. After eating, you come back to the stone. Pick it up, look at it with morning eyes which see things more plainly than evening eyes do. The edge you shaped yesterday is still good. But you notice one end is rounder than it might be, the shape could be refined, the angle made slightly more acute. You find a small dense striking stone nearby and work the end. A few careful strikes, each one placed deliberately. Tap. Look. Tap. Look, small adjustment. Small improvement, that is most of what making is, not large decisions or sudden transformations, but the accumulation of small ones. Removing a little. Testing, removing a little more. This morning you move toward different ground, out of the sheltered area, across open land, toward a place where large, flat stones lie exposed against each other in long layers. You've been here before. The stone here is different, finer in grain, darker, with a particular way of breaking. The walk takes a portion of the morning. The ground slopes gently upward, the grass thinning as you climb, the rock beginning to show through the soil in longer and longer stretches. The air is cooler up here and the wind is more present. You take your time among the exposed stone. There is no rush in this. It is not a task with a deadline. It is more like a kind of foraging, moving through, noticing, picking up and setting down, taking what seems useful. Some pieces are too thick, some too soft. You can tell from the sound when you tap them, a dull thud instead of a clear ring. Some are already broken in unhelpful ways, their edges irregular and crumbling. You find a piece that's already partly split. One edge has a natural sharpness where the stone separated cleanly along its own grain. You pick it up, test it. The edge is long and fairly even, longer than anything you could easily produce from scratch by striking. This is often how it works. The best starting point is something already partly done by the ground itself, a stone that fell right or was struck by another stone long before you arrived. You didn't make this. You found it. That distinction matters less than it might seem. You keep it. Research suggests that early humans transported certain types of stone, ones useful for tool making, over distances of many kilometers. This means they knew, before arriving at a quarry site, what they were looking for. The right kind of stone became something sought, not just encountered. Intention preceding arrival. You add the new piece to what you're carrying. The load is heavier now. You shift how you hold things, the large sharp piece under your arm against your side, your original worked stone in your right hand, the flat-palmed stone tucked against your waist, the stick held loosely. This is a small kind of organization, nothing declared, nothing decided in advance, just the body working out how to carry what it has without dropping anything, without creating friction that will tire you before you reach where you're going. Further along the high ground, the rock shelf ends and the land opens into a wider view. You can see, from here, the distant line of the stream, a dark thread through lighter ground. The tree line, the open expanse between. You sit for a moment on a flat ledge and look out at it. The territory is legible to you in a way that would not be legible to someone who hadn't walked it. You know which parts are dry, which parts have water, which stretches have the kind of ground animals prefer. You know it in your legs and feet as much as anywhere else. You rest briefly. Then you move. On the descent, you pass through a stretch of ground where the soil is softer, darker. Here the plants are different, taller, more varied. You stop at a place where you know something grows and spend time with your hands in the soil, working slowly. The digging stone does what it did yesterday. The root comes free. You eat some now, carry some. Lower down, where the land flattens again, there are bones scattered in the grass near a slight depression in the ground. Old and bleached and dry, not from anything recent. You move through them slowly, crouching to look at each one. Most are not useful. Too fragmented, too small. But one, part of a large limb bone, still mostly intact, is different. You pick it up, heavy for its size, dense, solid across the wall. You tap it against the stone in your hand. The sound it makes is different from stone on stone, duller, slightly deeper, a different material entirely. But the density is there. You test it further, press it against the ground, lever it. It doesn't flex, doesn't give. Hard as stone in some ways, but shaped differently from any stone. Longer and rounder and already vaguely cylindrical. You carry it. At a certain point in the middle of the day, you find a tree with bark that's come loose. A large section, pulled away from the wood beneath by time and damp, curling outward from the trunk. You take it in your hands and pull it free. It comes away in a long strip, slightly damp on the inner surface. You turn it over. The inner side is fibrous, pale, stringy, with a slight give to it when you flex it. You scrape your worked stone along it. Fibers come away in thin, long strips. You do it again, finding the direction of the grain and following it. Some of the strips are long and fairly even. You test their strength by pulling. They hold against a moderate force. With a sharp jerk, they give, but that is more than you need from them. You gather a handful of the better strips and set the rest aside. Bark can bind things. Wrap around a join and hold two materials together. You have seen this done, or seen the result of it, a stone fitted to a handle, held in place by wrapping, by the tension of something wound tight and then dried hard. You have the memory of it in your hands even if you couldn't describe the steps. You work the bark strips carefully, keeping them from tearing lengthwise. Some you roll loosely and tuck them away. Some you test further, pulling at angles to understand where they give. You take your time. The shade here is good. After, you find a comfortable place to sit and take out the bone. The bark strips, the bone, the worked stone. You hold the stone against the thick end of the bone where the surface is slightly concave, a natural hollow that could almost have been made for this. The stone fits against it imperfectly. The angle is slightly off. You adjust. A little better. You take a bark strip and wind it around the join. Pull it tight. It holds the stone in place, but loosely. When you shake the whole thing, the stone moves. You wind another strip over the first. Tighter. Overlapping. Better, but still not solid. You think about this without rushing it. There is a way of approaching problems when you have enough time, not attacking them directly, just turning them over in your mind while your hands stay busy. The solution often arrives on its own. You try packing a small piece of folded bark between the stone and the bone before winding. A shim. The stone sits more firmly now. You wind the strip over it, pulling as tight as you can while keeping the strip intact. Overlap twice at the end. You shake it. It holds. You stand and swing the tool through the air gently. It stays together. The stone at the end adds weight and reach. The contact point is farther from your hand, which means more force arrives at whatever you strike. You test it against a fallen log nearby. The impact is heavier than the stone alone. More certain. You swing it again. Adjust your grip. Swing again. There is something in the rhythm of it. The swing, the contact, the small adjustment, the swing again, that settles into the body quickly. Not a long learning curve. The tool extends what your arm already knows how to do. Research suggests hafting, fixing a stone to a handle, extended early humans' ability to work with harder materials and to strike from farther away, and with more force. But like most developments, it almost certainly evolved gradually, through many experiments across many hands. Not one person's invention. An accumulation of attempts, some of which worked better than others. You are not inventing. You are doing what feels like the next thing. The afternoon is warm, and the light has that heavy quality it gets when the sun is highest. You find shade along the tree line and rest through the worst of it, not sleeping, just still. Watching the open ground shimmer slightly in the heat. A group of animals moves across the far distance, too far to be specific about, just shapes and movement. You watch them without purpose. They pass into the tree line and are gone. You close your eyes, not for long, just to let them rest. Later, with the light more agreeable, you move again. The riverbank draws you back. The ground near water is almost always more interesting than ground far from it, more variety, more materials, more traces of what has passed through. Today, you find something you haven't thought about in a while. At the base of a steep-cut bank, where the water has carved away the soil, a layer of darker material is exposed. Clay, heavy and dense, different from the dry soil above it. You press your fingers into it. It yields, holds the impression of your fingers. You scoop some out, work it in your hands. It is a material that shapes itself to whatever holds it. You press it around the working end of your digging stick, building up a thicker point. You smooth it with your thumb, working out the air pockets. You let it rest. You know that this material changes when it dries, becomes harder, less yielding. Whether it will hold on the stick is uncertain. That is something you will find out by waiting, but the trying costs nothing. You set the stick aside carefully and wash the clay from your hands in the stream. The water is cold today, clear enough to see the stones on the bottom, each one in perfect detail, wobbling slightly in the light. You sit back on the bank and look at your hands. Small cuts from the stone work earlier. Roughness across the palms. Clay still in the creases of your fingers despite the washing. These are the hands that have been working. You flex them. Open. Close. Open. There is a particular tiredness in the hands that comes from working with stone all day. Not sharp tiredness, not painful, just a fullness, a density in the muscles of the thumb and the heel of the palm that wasn't there this morning. You notice it the way you notice most things about the body's condition. Information, nothing more. The late afternoon has a quality of looseness. The work of the day is mostly done. You are moving without much destination now, covering familiar ground at an easy pace, carrying your tools, watching the land go by. A line of higher ground to the north. The tree line to the east. The open expanse you came through this morning, dry and wide, already beginning to cool in the evening air. You find yourself at a place where 3 different types of ground meet. The hard exposed rock, the soft soil, the edge of the dry grass. You stand at the junction and look at all 3 directions. Nothing in particular draws you. You crouch and pick up a stone from the hard ground. Set it down. Pick up another. Turn it over. The underside is darker, slightly damp from the shade. There are fine marks on it, not made by anyone, just the result of it sitting pressed against other stone for a long time. You set it down where you found it. Back at the sheltered area, the evening is already in progress. More people than last night. A fire that is bigger, better established. The smell of something being cooked, fat and char and something slightly sweet that you can't name but know the smell of. You settle at the edge of the group and set your tools out. The worked stone. The flat-palmed stone. The hafted bone piece. The clay-tipped digging stick. The clay not yet dry. The bark strips. You look at what you've accumulated over 2 days. It is not much in one sense. A few objects. But each one required attention, required the kind of noticing that precedes all making. And each one does something specific that bare hands alone cannot do, or cannot do as well. Someone near you is working with a large flat stone as a surface, a kind of base. They have placed something on it and are using a smaller rounded stone to grind it. The motion is circular, slow, steady. The material beneath the grinding stone is being broken down to something finer. The sound is slow and repetitive. You listen to it without focusing on it, just part of the ambient texture of the evening. You take out the hafted tool and examine the binding again. One end has loosened slightly. You tighten it, rewinding the strip tucking the end underneath to hold it. Better. You run your thumb along the stone edge at the end. Still sharp, you set it down. You pick up the flat-palmed stone, the one from the stream side, with the hollow that fits your thumb. Just hold it. The weight of it has become familiar. You know this stone now the way you know the feel of specific things, the worn patch of ground near sleep, the particular way certain foods sit in the mouth. Familiarity is its own kind of knowledge. The fire burns down over the next long while from active flame to deep burning coals. The group around it thins gradually. People move to their sleeping places. The sounds soften. You stay a little longer. There are still small things to do, or not do, but attend to. The digging stick, its clay tip now hard enough to test. You press your thumb against it. Firm. You press harder. It holds. Good. You look at the star-filled sky above the open edge of the overhang. The stars are very numerous and very still, and you watch them with the same quality of attention you give most things. Not deep attention, not surface attention, just the kind that receives without demanding. Sleep, when it comes, is quick. The body does not negotiate when it is ready. The third morning opens with cloud. Not dark cloud, pale and even, the light diffuse and shadowless. Everything slightly softer than it was in yesterday's direct light. The land looks different this way. More uniform. The distances harder to judge. You move out early. Cooler this morning, and the air has some moisture in it. Your tools go with you as they always do now. The ground you're moving through today is different from the past 2 days. You've gone north, along the slope of a ridge into territory that is rockier and less familiar. You come here less often. The ground is more broken, large stones tumbled together, gaps between them, uneven underfoot. You move carefully. Here the stone is abundant. Different varieties close together. The ridge has exposed rock from deeper underground, and some of it is unlike the stone on the flatter land below. Darker, heavier, with a different texture. You pick up a piece and tap it. The ring is sharp and clear, fine-grained. You look at its edge where it's broken. Very clean. This is better stone than most of what you have. You work it carefully, taking time to find the angles. A long oval piece takes shape. Not quickly, this is the better part of an hour, working from different directions, refining and refining. When you hold it, the balance is immediately different from the stones you've worked before, more even. The edges are consistent all the way around. You work a second piece from the same material. Smaller. Thinner. More of a blade shape, long and narrow, the edge running along one side. You have to be more careful here. The thin profile means the stone can break entirely if you misjudge a strike. One strike too many, and a section fractures away. You look at the result. Shorter than you intended, but still useful. The edge is still good. You keep both. The clouds clear by mid-morning. The sun returns with some warmth behind it. You rest on a high point of the ridge and look at the territory below. It is laid out like something you could almost hold. The stream, the trees, the open ground, the distant flat horizon. You can see smoke from the direction of the sheltered area, thin and pale against the sky. You eat something, drink from a small pool collected in a hollow in the rock. The new tools are on the stone beside you. The 2 pieces from the dark ridge stone. The original worked stone. The hafted piece. The flat-palmed stone. The digging stick. 6 objects. Each one a small biography of noticing and choosing. On the way down from the ridge, you stop at a place where a dead tree leans against a living one, its bark long since gone, the wood pale and dried to a particular hardness. You test it with your thumb. Dense. Dry. Not fibrous, more like compressed wood, almost chalky on the surface but solid through. You break a length of it free, about the length of your forearm. You test its weight. Turn it, not a tool yet, just material. But the weight is good and the straightness is good, and you carry it. The afternoon takes you back through familiar territory. Across the open ground, through the lower brush, along the edge of the tree line. You have walked this route or routes very like it many times. Your feet know the landmarks without your eyes needing to track them. You spend time, in a shaded hollow, working the length of pale dead wood. You shape it with the stone tools, not much shaping, the wood is already close to what you want, just refining the ends. One end comes to a dull point, the other you leave flat. This becomes your new digging stick. Better than the old one. The wood is harder and drier, which means it will last longer before splitting. You set the old one aside. Near the stream again, in the late afternoon, you find something new to try. There is a stretch of bank where thick roots have been exposed by the water, some of them half submerged, trailing in the current. Some of these roots are long and tough and flexible, not brittle, not stiff. You test one between your hands. It bends without breaking, twisted. It resists without cracking. You pull a length free from the bank and sit with it. This material has different properties from bark strips. It's longer, smoother, with more consistent strength along its length. You wind it around the join in the hafted tool, adding to the bark already there. The root binds differently, slightly smoother, slightly less grip, but stronger against pulling. You layer it over the bark. Wind twice. Pull tight. The tool feels more solid than it has before. By early evening you have crossed back toward the sheltered area from the east, approaching it from a direction you don't usually take. The landscape looks different from this angle. The rock formation that forms the overhang is visible in its full height, which you don't usually see when approaching from below. You stop and look at it. Just rock. Just the natural shape of the ground. But it has become, over time, something else as well. A point of return. A place associated with certain qualities, warmth, proximity to others, rest. You go on toward it. At camp, things are quieter tonight. Fewer people. A smaller fire. You sit close to the edge of the shelter where you can look out at the open ground. The sky is clear again and darkening fast. You have the tools arranged near you. You sort through them slowly, handling each one, assessing the condition of each edge, the tightness of each binding. The smaller ridge stone, the blade-shaped one, has a slight nick in the edge where you tested it against something today. You work it lightly with the flat-palmed stone as a backer, using a small flake to redress the nick. It doesn't take long. The nick smooths out, the edge re-established. There is a kind of maintenance that tools require. Not constant, not demanding, but ongoing. An edge dulls and must be refreshed. A binding loosens and must be tightened. A crack in a handle must be noticed before it becomes a break. This attention to condition is itself a skill. Not dramatic, not creative in any obvious sense, just the discipline of looking at what you have and seeing it accurately. You eat. The fire settles. The night deepens around it. The person from the first night who was working with hide is here again tonight. Working again. The same material, or similar. The same repetitive stroke with the same tool. You watch the motion, the grip, the evenness of pressure. At some point, without deciding to, you pick up your cutting tool and try the same motion on a piece of bark nearby. pressing it flat against the stone, drawing the edge along it in the same direction, overlapping each stroke. The bark smooths, the surface changes under the work, not hide, not the same result, but the same movement, moving through your hands now as well as through someone else's. You put the tool down, lie back. The coals breathe, the smoke goes straight up in the still air. The stars are beginning, not many yet, just the brightest ones, visible even before the sky is fully dark. They arrive one by one and then in clusters. By the time the sky is completely dark, there are more than you could count, and you have never tried to count them. You sleep. The fourth morning. You wake early, before most others. The sky is still more gray than blue. The fire is ash except for a small patch of coals at its center. You sit quietly for a while, not doing anything, just sitting. The tools are arranged where you left them. You look at them from a small distance without picking any of them up. They have been with you for several days now, collected, shaped, adjusted, used. Some of them are different from what they were when you first held them. The original worked stone has been re-edged twice. The digging stick has been replaced. The hafted piece has been tightened and reinforced. They are yours in the way things become yours when you've worked on them and used them, not by declaring it, not by keeping anyone else from them, just by the accumulation of attention and use and time. Today you go somewhere new. Not far, an hour's walk perhaps, in a direction you've been meaning to explore. A place where the land dips down into a lower hollow, sheltered and damp. You've seen this from high ground before, but not been into it. The walk is pleasant. Easy grade. The morning air is still cool and the dew is on the grass and your feet come back wet from it before the ground firms up. The hollow, when you reach it, is different from the land above. The trees are taller and closer together. The ground is softer underfoot. There is a quietness to it, more contained, the sounds closer, the light filtered and even. You move through it slowly. The material here is different from the rocky ridge, different from the open ground. More wood, more variety of wood, some trees you know well, others you see rarely. The bark of one tree here is thick and ridged. You peel a piece back and look at the inner surface, pale and damp, slightly fibrous, like the bark you used for binding but smoother. You take a piece and carry it, not knowing yet what it will be for. At the far edge of the hollow, a bank of stone is exposed where the soil has eroded away. The stone here is not the fine dark stone from the ridge. It's rougher, coarser, more like compressed sand. Not good for edges. But the surface is flat and even and extremely rough. You run the back of your hand along it. It takes the skin, an abrasive surface. You press the new pale digging stick against it and draw it slowly across. The surface of the wood comes away, finally leaving it smoother. You do it again and again. The wood becomes more even, the rough patch is gone. This is a new thing. Not a cutting tool used as a cutting tool, but a surface used for smoothing. Different function. Same attention. Early humans used natural abrasive surfaces, sandstone, coarse rock, for smoothing bone and wood long before there is widespread evidence of it. The function was understood before the dedicated tool for it existed. You use what is available for what is needed. You spend time here, working different surfaces of the stick against the stone. The wood becomes uniform, smooth, pleasant to hold. You try the same surface on the bone from the hafted tool, not on the binding, but on a length of spare bone you've been carrying without clear intention. The abrasive stone takes the surface down slowly, more slowly than wood. But it does take it. The bone becomes smoother with each pass. You hold the worked section up and look at it. The surface is different, finer, more uniform. You run the pad of your thumb along it, almost polished. You work the sharp tip of the spare bone against the coarse stone at a steeper angle, wearing it down to a finer point than it had before. This takes time. You are not in a hurry. The hollow is quiet and cool, and the work is absorbing in a low, steady way. When the point is done, it is sharper than the bone awl you worked at camp several nights ago. More precise. The tip goes into soft material easily. You test it on a piece of bark and comes back out cleanly. Better. You tuck it alongside the other tools. After, you sit for a while doing nothing in particular. The hollow has a quality of stillness that the open ground doesn't have. The trees hold the air. The sounds are contained, local, without the long distances that open land carries. A bird somewhere in the canopy above, you can hear it clearly but not see it. The occasional drip of water somewhere, a slow leak from the bank, you have been moving and making for days. Right now you are just present, sitting in a particular place on a particular piece of ground with the work paused. This is also a kind of time, not wasted, not empty, just what it is. The hollow has a small pool in its lowest point. Still water, very clear. The bottom visible, dark leaves and pale sand and a few stones. You crouch at the edge. Your reflection is more complete here than in moving water, still enough to show your face, your shoulders, the sky above your head. You look at yourself looking. Then you look away. Pick up a small stone and drop it in. The reflection breaks apart in rings that move outward until they reach the edges of the pool and stop. You stay in the hollow through the middle of the day. At a certain point, you try something you've been thinking about, in the background since watching the person grinding material last night. There are some seeds here, a plant you know, with hard seeds that are edible but difficult. You find a flat stone and a rounded one. Place a small amount of seeds on the flat stone. Press the rounded stone against them. Rotate slowly. The seeds crack, then crush. The material that results is coarser than you want. You work it longer, finer. You taste a little. The flavor is different from the whole seeds, more present, easier, the texture changed. You continue. This is not a new idea, you have seen variations of it. But you have not done it yourself until now. The doing is different from the watching. You have to find the right pressure, the right movement, the right combination of circular and forward stroke. By the time you stop, you have something you can use. Small amount, but real. The afternoon walk back from the hollow is unhurried. You've collected a few things. A smooth stick, a piece of the pale smooth bark, a few of the better seeds, a flat stone that would work well as a grinding base. These are added to what you carry. The load is heavier, but the weight is distributed reasonably. You stop at the ridge briefly to look at the territory again, the full spread of it. The hollow you came from, invisible from here, it disappears into the general surface of the land. But you know it is there. A small new room in a house you have been living in without walls for a long time. The descent takes you through the transitional zone where the rocky ground softens, where the dry grass comes back in, where the soil changes color from pale to red to dark. You pause midway down where a cluster of stones has gathered in the depression between two rock formations. Wind and water have sorted them over time, the smallest ones at the edges, the larger ones in the center. A natural arrangement that has nothing to do with you. You crouch and look through them anyway. One is a kind of stone you haven't seen before in this area, reddish with a faint banding through it. You pick it up, heavier than it looks. You tap it against the stone in your hand, and the sound is different from anything you've heard today. Higher, cleaner, almost a ring. You're not sure what you would do with it. You hold it for a while, turning it, pressing your thumb along its surfaces. It is smooth in a way that the ridge stone wasn't. The banding gives it a particular texture, slightly varied. You keep it. Sometimes the reason for keeping something becomes clear later. Further down the slope, where a line of low shrubs grows along a natural terrace, you stop to rest your legs. The descent has taken more from your knees than the climb. You sit on a flat rock and look at the land to the west, which is catching the full afternoon light now, everything gold and slightly hazy. You take out the hafted tool and hold it loosely. The weight of it has become as familiar as your own hand. The slight imbalance you noticed early on, the tip angling very slightly off-center, you have adjusted to. Your wrist compensates automatically now. You don't think about it. This is a thing that happens with tools you use often. The imperfections become part of the use rather than obstacles to it. Your body learns around them. You find in a patch of bare soil a track, fresh, large. You crouch and look at it without touching. Something was here recently. The shape of the track tells you what kind, more or less. The depth tells you about weight. The direction is clear. You stand. Look in that direction. Nothing visible, but knowing something passed through here recently, something large, changes the quality of your attention without changing what you're doing. You go on. Evening again. The fire is good tonight. Someone has found dry wood, dense and slow burning, and the coals that result are deep and long-lasting. The light they give is steadier than the usual fire. Less flicker, more warmth. You sit in it and take out the tools. The hafted piece. You have used this for several days now, in different ways, against different materials. There are small marks on the bone from impact, the surface slightly changed. The binding has held well. You test it once more, firm. You leave it. The blade piece from the ridge stone. This one has been the most useful of the new things. The edge fine enough for detailed work. You've used it for cutting, for scraping, for the bark work, for trimming wood. It is still good. A small nick on one end. You work it out carefully. The original stone from the first morning. You look at it for a long time. It has been re-edged several times now. The shape is different from how you found it. You have removed material, worked it, changed it. But the core of it is the same stone you picked up that first day because the weight felt right in your hand. It still fits the same way. Beside the fire, late, you work on something new. You take the piece of pale smooth bark from the hollow and the thin ridge stone, and you spend time slowly pressing the stone along the bark in controlled strokes, not cutting but shaping, bending and scoring the bark along specific lines. When you fold it along those lines, it holds a shape, a kind of container, shallow, the edges folded up. It is not watertight. It is not a basket in any complete sense. It is just a shape that the bark will hold if you encourage it to. But it will carry things, small, dry things, seeds, chips of stone, pieces of bark strip. You set it on the ground in front of you and look at it. It is the newest thing you have made. The fire burns on. You let your eyes go soft. The coals, the occasional flame, the shapes of people around the fire settling into stillness one by one. The sounds of the night beyond the shelter. A certain quality settles over the camp at this hour. Not silence exactly. Not sleep. Something in between. Everyone in their own particular kind of rest. some already sleeping, some, like you, somewhere between awareness and its absence. Your tools are around you. You have been moving for days, working, noticing, adjusting. Each day a new collection of small events, small learnings, small improvements. This is most of what a life is made of, not the large moments. The small ones, accumulated over time, adding up to a kind of competence that feels, from the inside, like just knowing how things work. You lie down. The ground under you is familiar in its specific hardness. The sounds of the camp have their particular texture. The fire gives off light that touches the underside of the overhang above you in shifting, gentle patterns. You let the day go. The stone is beside your hand. The tools are close. The work is done for today. A wind comes, briefly, from somewhere outside the shelter. You feel it at your feet, cool and direct, and then it is gone. The smoke from the fire bends for a moment and then straightens again. Small events. Most of the night is small events. You have not thought, today or any day, about what you are building toward. There is no picture in your mind of a future arrangement of tools, a complete set, a finished project. There is only the next useful thing, and then the thing after that. This is not a limitation. It is just how time works when you are inside it. The tools you have now were not planned. They were accumulated. Each one arrived through a particular moment, a stone on the ground, a bone in the grass, a piece of bark that suggested what it might be used for. The making followed the finding. The finding came from moving through the world with open hands. You will move again tomorrow. There will be more ground, more stone, more wood, more water, more objects to pick up and test, more edges to try, more small problems to solve and small solutions to find, not because there is an end to arrive at, just because moving is what you do, and the world continuously offers what it offers, and your hands continuously learn what they learn. There will be more tomorrow. Another stone to notice, another object to test, another small adjustment to an edge or a binding or a grip, not because you decided there will be, just because that is how days work. Each one brings its own materials, its own small problems, its own quiet solutions. But that is tomorrow. Right now, the fire. Right now, the warmth. The solid ground beneath the body. The familiar weight of the stone beside your open hand. The sounds of the night are very soft now. The fire is lower, the coals orange and steady, not flickering. The air is cool on your face, which is the part of you still aware of air. Something in the distance makes a sound. One sound. Then, nothing. Your breath is slowing, not slower than usual, just finding its own pace, the pace that comes without management, without choosing. The tools are there. They will be there in the morning. They are not going anywhere. You don't need to hold anything. Your hands are open. The light from the coals is very small now. Warm. Still. The sounds have become part of the night rather than sounds in it. You are here. And then you are not exactly anywhere. Just the warmth. Just the weight. Just rest.